Their battles were fought in the dead of night, in all weathers, in small, lightly constructed boats stuffed with high-octane petrol.
Off red. Range of target.
Fighting the enemy in the pitch dark, with the throttles wide open. Their engines roaring, these tiny warships crashed through the sea at 40 knots, fighting eyeball to eyeball with the Germans and the Japanese. The crew were young, in their late teens and early 20s. But what's even more extraordinary is that over 80% of them had never even been to sea before, or were simply weekend yachtsmen, a bunch of amateurs, solicitors, bakers, postmen and farmers, but all were volunteers. Only the very best to come out of training went to coastal forces. Theirs is one of the most remarkable and untold stories of the Second World War. Their successes have become legends and rank among some of the greatest achievements of the war. They were the Royal Navy's coastal forces. Manning these high-speed motor torpedo boats and motor gunboats, they had a deserved reputation as mavericks. In the immediate lead-up to war, the traditionally stuffy Admiralty had little time for the small, fast fighting vessels. The peacetime Navy meant the big gunships, showing the flag, policing a worldwide empire. The Navy was very slow to recognise the desperate need for MTBs and their like. Meanwhile, the Germans were fast building up an impressive fighting force of E-boats, which as the war progressed, were justifiably feared and respected in equal proportions. The men of coastal forces lived, fought and sometimes died together, packed into small boats, face to face with the enemy. Coastal Forces was born with this spirit. The first true hero of Coastal Forces was Lieutenant Augustus Agar, a man of panache, daring and skill. In 1919, he was running agents from Finland into revolutionary Russia. On one trip, Agar decided to take a torpedo with him in a high-speed motorboat. He found and sank the Russian heavy cruiser, the Oleg. It was a real David versus Goliath story. The attack was so successful, Agar returned with more small boats, and this time sank a depot ship and put 2 more battleships out of action. He was awarded the VC for the first attack, and a few months later, the DSO. His fighting spirit and aggression became an inspiration for succeeding generations. Come the Second World War, coastal forces lived up to their reputation. One of their greatest triumphs was the raid on Saint-Nazaire. It was the site of a giant dry dock, the only one able to hold the great German battleship the Tirpitz, and the pocket battleships, Bismarck, Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau. They all posed massive threats to both our convoys and surface fleet. One night, a small flotilla of coastal forces craft escorted the converted destroyer HMS Campbelltown, her forward compartments packed with hidden high explosives. They led her right up to the dock gates at point-blank range from the German guns. Campbelltown rammed the gates. The bomb was delayed action. Germans and French crowded onto her decks. The Germans laughingly mocked the captured coastal forces men for thinking a puny destroyer could smash the lock. And then she blew up. The Atlantic was safe for the rest of the war from the threat of these great warships. But coastal forces had a hard battle in the early years of the war with the Vosper and British powerboats, referred to as short boats, challenging in the most courageous way the superior German E-boats. The E-boats were faster, more heavily armed, and better sea boats. They wrought havoc with Britain's coastal shipping. In this challenging environment, Coastal Forces was to hone its warfare techniques, which were to carry them through the war. After these early years, along came a man who was to lift Coastal Forces' capability to a new level: Noel Macklin. Macklin was a car maker. He owned the Fairmile Company, but he recognised the need for more aggressive and formidable craft. He designed and built the famous dog boats, more like small corvettes, packed with guns that could at last meet the E-boats on an equal footing. These boats helped massively to turn the tide in the Allies' favour. Coastal Forces fought all over the world, from the home waters, the Channel and North Sea, to the Mediterranean and the Far East. Theirs is a story that has never properly been told. But now the Coastal Forces Heritage Trust has found home for its own museum. It's been donated a motor torpedo boat by the Imperial War Museum, a fitting tribute to the exploits of these men and women. But now they face an even greater challenge: finding the resources to restore and display this historic boat as a fitting tribute to their history and memory.
We've only been able to give you the briefest of glimpses of Coastal Forces. Young men who took the war to the enemy and achieved extraordinary successes. We do need your support. Please help us. Every penny counts. If you're not able to do that, please sign up and we will send you our regular newsletter. Thank you.